Hello, I am Patti.
And I'm Jackie, and together we are Grow Live, helping you grow your garden one question at a time, one gardener at a time. We want you to have a healthier planet.
That's right. Perfect. We do want everybody to have a healthier planet, and it's going to come from healthier soil and helping our plants get healthier so that what we eat is healthier than what we currently are eating. So fantastic. How's things going this morning, Jackie?
Things are good. So it's sunny out here, but it's supposed to rain today. Mike and I have been making a lot of progress in our garden. And I heard you made some compost yesterday, and you're at so
Yes.
yay! Sue's here, Eileen's here, our
Yeah.
BFFs.
And Sue and I and a whole crew of Sue's helpers made a Johnson Sue bioreactor yesterday and got it loaded, and very exciting, and make good compost, and lots of people that are interested in making it and using it. So it's a good deal. So
And our tech is working. Who would have thought?
finally, yes. So guess what I have here, Jackie?
Dandelions?
Dandelions.
I took a picture of dandelions in the store in New York selling for, I think it was $3 for a bunch like that.
Yes.
Just like
Yes.
that, for sale in my mom's regular grocery store.
They're actually a resource, and the majority of people would have called this what?
Weeds.
But it's actually one of the wonder plants, and it's actually helping relieve compaction and get some calcium in soil. And we're going to work with it today, and we are going to use Nigel Palmer's book to follow a recipe to be able to make a plant extract out of those dandelions. The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments, using locally sourced materials to make mineral and biologic extracts and ferments, by Nigel Palmer and forward by John Kemp. Yeah, fantastic. So I put together a little slideshow of me making mine, and wow, it's turned out. It looks so yummy I could eat it, but I know we should put it through the plants first. So let's get over to that.
That wouldn't taste very good either, would it?
Oh yes, it would. It's got brown sugar in it. It would taste pretty yummy, really. But it would be
making weeds into plant food.
no, we're not. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make us. This is show 17, Jackie. Can you believe it? Show 17, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. So when we're back, we'll help as many people as we can. So today we are making plant food with dandelions. So this is the dandelion that I harvested, and I chopped up and put into this extract that I'm going to teach you here today. Chirping away, singing like crazy, and happy as to be. And so that's as early in the morning as you can possibly get out there. Preferably, they say before the sun rises, but I get up at 5 o'clock, and that has to be good enough, and that's when I harvested this dandelion. Because the plant, as the sun comes up, it's going to start doing photosynthesis, right? And it starts to work, and it's sending root exudates down to your microbes. And so all of the energy isn't in the leaves. So we want the energy in the leaves, because that's what we're going to chop up and make into this extract. This is the plant, and I chose to harvest 2 or 3 of these dandelions. And it's a little bit further in bud than I would like. If I could have got it with its pre-bud, right? So it's got like 5 or 6 buds on it that have not opened up into flowers yet. But if I could get it pre-bud before those buds are even right when they think about forming, then that's when the leaves. So think of it just like we would alfalfa. You want to be harvesting it in a really, really early bud stage to get the most protein in the leaves. We want the same thing with any of these weeds that we're going to extract, and we're turning it into plant food. So we want all the energy that we can get into the leaves and leaves. So I pulled this. I did pull a little bit of root, and I did put a little bit of root into the extract too. But here's Nigel's book, and he's got some YouTubes and some good stuff. He's got on some really good. He's on John Kemp's podcast. He's on I think he's on the Market Grower podcast too. So he's got some
Yes.
really good stuff to learn from out there on the internet for Nigel Palmer. And when I go home, I'm going to go through my yard and find the ones that doesn't have too many flowers or even started to flower yet, and I'm going to put them make them just like I would spinach. So cook it, put a little salt in it, and yum yum. Little dried vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Wow, fantastic. And so this is what they look like. Perfectly small, but yeah, I think kind of the more surface area that we can get this sugar around better. And he uses brown sugar, but I found it's a lot cheaper for me to buy just pure white sugar, organic white sugar. And then I've got granular molasses, and I mix the two together because that's what brown sugar is white sugar with molasses in it. And so I just make it together. It works fine for these plant extracts. Saves me a little money. I don't have the brown sugar getting hard and going bad and stuff like that.
Molasses has extra minerals and nutrients.
Yep. Dandelion chopped up and brown sugar all the way to almost the top. And then I put my hand down in there, packed it down, and ended with sugar on top. He says to use a rock to hold it down, but I haven't seen that's a problem for me. But maybe if you have problems with the plant material floating up, then you might want to put a mason jar with water in it or something to hold that plant material down into the juices. But I didn't experience. It's going to look like molasses or something on your pancakes. But no, we want to know this is a plant extract. So to pull out the minerals out of the plant material. This is 1 week later, so I put a cheesecloth top on it with a rubber band on top of it. I put it in a dark place in my basement where it wasn't hot nor cold, but 60 degrees, to store it, to let it do its fermenting. And then when the leak was up, the jar got a lot of this black syrup all the way running through the plant litter, and the plant litter had decreased down, so it's not as much, but it's still in there. So I put it through a strainer, and I took it upside down and put it onto a bowl to catch the juice. And then I put it in, this is one of the wide mouth jelly jars. So that's how much I got out of that. I did a half a quart, or I did a half a gallon jar is what I put mine into and made the plant juice. And so then it ended up being this wide mouth jelly jar full of the syrup that we're going to use. Now this is it's storable now. We can store it. And so I'm just going to keep it in a dark location. And then when I want to use it, then all I have to do is go start using it. So how do we use it? So this is the cool part, because I thought, and first when I read the book, I thought, well, this is just going to be a full-year treat to use it on plants. And so you put it in your sprayer at 1,000 to 1. So 1 tablespoon to 5 gallons of water. So that little jelly jar is going to last me a long time. That's a lot of plant food in that little jar. And so then mix it 5 gallons of water, and then spray it out onto your leaves of your plants and the bark of your fruit trees or your raspberries or whatever. Any plant material that you want, you spray it onto the plant. And so you're actually giving that plant the minerals and stuff that are plant available minerals, because the plant's already taken them up into the leaves. It's now applied to the other plants to get to use those minerals. And Nigel's got the list of all the nutrients. He paid for nutrient testing for these. I'm going to have to stop sharing to show you. But another way to use it, and we'll talk about this more, is on a seed treat.
Does this also work on people's lawns? Because I get that question all the time. What do I put on my organic lawn? And AJ Olson told me use molasses, and this almost sounds like a very similar thing. Like
this would be way better than molasses because it's got all of these plant available nutrients in it. Yeah. And so on Nigel's appendix, on page 188, he's got the nutrient breakdown. We pay for all of these nutrient tests. to figure out what's in this stuff after he made it. And so the dandelions is incredible. It's got a lot of calcium in it. It's got a lot of potassium. It's just loaded up with lots of really good stuff. And so now it's in a plant available form in this liquid that we can put into the water and then spray out onto our plants. He also uses it as a seed treat to get the minerals and the biology, because there'll be a lot of biology in this, right? Remember last couple weeks we were talking about the biology is actually in the plant and in the leaves and inside the cells of the plant. And so there's going to be biology in that mix too. And put it on your plant, your seeds, just like any other seed treat that we've been talking about. And it is.
Did you see Eileen had a question about what time do you spray?
So the very best time to spray, Eileen, is back to when these birds are singing. So I like to do it in the evening, and you can do it all the way up until I like early morning. So, and it's better for the plants to think, okay, we're not already doing photosynthesis. We're just able to absorb the nutrients into the stomas are open. Yeah, and the stomas are open into the leaves. So I usually do it in the evening just because it's better time management for myself. And I know a lot of market gardeners that's what they do. They cook out. They do one on Wednesday evening every week, and they always put it on the evening. Now, if there's a rain, if it's raining that day, then you wouldn't put it on that day. You'd wait till the rain is over. But the plants are going to absorb it really fast, and the microbes are going to glue themselves to the plant. So the rain isn't even that big a deal, but it's a lot more fun to put it out when it's not raining. Any other questions? Is there any other questions?
I hit that button by accident.
What do you think the shelf life is for that syrup?
Yeah, Sue's got a good question. She wants to know what the shelf life is for the syrup.
Question.
And I think from what I read in the book that it should be no issue of time. Even these biologics that the will make and stuff, he says they're shelf stable for, and so a lot of the products that we've been buying, they do have a expiration date on them, but I think the government makes them put that date on. So like, even on our Beyer Gold, it's a dried down product. I think it would probably last for eternity, but they do have an expiration date on it. But I would say use it up within a year or two, though, is what I think to get the most out of it. So it should really help make your plants healthier. I would for sure jump on putting it on the lawn, Jackie. Right? So what the work the dandelion is trying to do to help improve your soils in your lawn, we now have jet speeded it up into this applicable form to put it right back out onto the place where the dandelions were grown to help heal that soil and to make those plants in that area healthier, right? The healthier the plants, the more the microbes are that will help build the whole system into a healthier situation. So have you ever seen anybody use any, Jackie?
I have not, but what I love about it is it seems so easy, and there's dandelions everywhere. I just wanted to double check. So you said use the dandelions before they bloom. Like, I remember when I was first picking sunflowers, that was something that took me a long time to wrap my head around. Like, I don't know, some things just take me, it's like kids in school, they say you gotta 700 to 700 times,
Right.
70 times before they learn a letter of the alphabet in kindergarten.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, it's easy for a lot of agriculturists that put up hay, if they put up hay properly. A lot of them don't put up hay properly. But you want the alfalfa, if we're cutting alfalfa hay, you want the plant to just be in the pre-bud stage and just starting to bud. So like this dandelion is reacting to us pulling it this morning. So these are starting to open up. But when these were completely closed, that's in the pre-bud stage. But when you look at your dandelion, the pre-buds are clear down into the base of the plant is when I would want to use this plant to get the most properties out of it. And that's when you'd want to eat it too, actually before those buds even form, because the plant will get bitter after that. So a lot of people harvest dandelion leaves and think, wow, that is the bitterest green I've ever ate. But they've harvested that at the wrong time of maturity and maybe the wrong time of the day too. So
I'm having that problem with my arugula. My arugula that I planted outside under the row cover before I went to New York, so the beginning of April, it grew really tall, but it is already bitter. Whereas the arugula the pot that I transplanted it out of, that is in the little mini greenhouse Mike covered over, it's perfect and it's not as bitter. It's the same exact plant. It's weird. But the ones that I transplanted outside, the leaves are like twice as big and they're getting bitter already. But the ones in the greenhouse are thriving and are so fresh. I ate my first salad from Mike had volunteer lettuce come up from last year, and he went and picked me a basket of salad the other day. It was so good.
maybe we had some last night at Sue's house that I picked out of high quality.
Oh, they're delicious.
That was excellent. So Eileen's got a great question. She wants to know if we can make this out of any kind of weed. The answer would be yes, but it would be different qualities, right? Because he's got several of them listed in the book of different nutrients that are in it. But the plants that I would prefer to use would be comfrey and then nettles. So those two plants are just loaded with nutrients, and lots of organic growers just use those two plants. They don't go make a whole bunch of compost and stuff. They're just making these plant extracts with those two plants, comfrey and nettles. And he's got them listed in the book here.
And dandelion.
What's CL stand for?
Comfrey, nettle, and dandelion.
Isn't it?
CI.
CL?
This is sulfur, phosphorus, calcium. Whatever that one is, it's got a lot of it. So we're comparing dandelions and nettles here. But actually he has compared dandelion, nettles, quackgrass roots. Actually the leftover fruit, right? The fruit that you didn't eat, they make them into extract. Horsetail. Horsetail is another big weed that's gotten it's chemically resistant. It's starting to be everywhere. That the farmers can't kill it with their chemicals. Lamb's quarter he did, chickweed he did, comfrey, catnip, and mugwort, and dill. So he's got a lot of here already done of different plants. They're not necessarily all weeds, but some of them.
I got it.
Okay, so
What if you mixed a couple of plants, like you put in some dandelion and comfrey?
yes, I do that all the time when I just do when I just steep it in water. And so a lot of organic growers, that's all they're doing is steep it in water, and we'll discuss that later. But that's really smelly and stinky. Where this method, it's like no smell whatsoever and smells yummy. So, but yeah, so I blend the plants. Comfrey, dandelion, borage. I use quite a bit of borage because I grow quite a bit of borage. All those plants would be fantastic. Nettles blended in there. Oh, chlorine. Oh yeah. So what you have, the growing, is trying to do a job in that place. You take it and make a tea or extract out of it and put it back in that place to speed up the healing process of that soil and to feed the microbes or take care of the microbes, whatever's needing to be done. Or maybe it's nutrients the plants around it need, right? So pretty cool stuff. And Nigel's done a lot of work. It's all time since he's been growing. He's been growing a long time. Any other questions? Have you got some dandelions you could make into extract, Jackie?
I definitely have some dandelions I could put into extract. They are like I mowed the lawn. It took me 3 days to mow our lawn when I first got home, and like it desperately like there's one part down by the orchard where it's just full of dandelions already. There's
So,
one up over there.
um, when I started my yard, I had quite a few dandelions, and I thought, well, back then I wasn't very well educated, on all of it and everything. And I thought, well, I was trying to get rid of them, so I would put on my gypsum, calcium, and stuff, and start trying to get the calcium and magnesium right in the soil, which will decrease your dandelions, because that's what they're trying to do is get more calcium up into the soil surface and to fix that compaction. So I got my garden going and everything, got all the mulches in, started using my compost tea or extracts and stuff. Pretty soon the dandelions are disappearing, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want all the dandelions to disappear, because the only other dandelions in the community probably have been used chemical kill on them and stuff, or over time the weeds be gone on, even though the plant comes back, it's still been exposed to chemicals. So I'm like, well, I want some dandelions. So I've stopped trying to kill dandelions and then be able to start using them for these extracts and to eat. And you can use the roots too. There's lots of purposes to use dandelions for.
We also just got honeybees. I went and got them down in Polson the day before, so the 24th of April.
Oh, nice.
We have our fruit trees are starting to bloom, the plum and the apple and the flowering crabs. But other than that, nothing is blooming this year. It is so late. It's been so cold. So the dandelions for the bees are doing a great job for
Yeah,
them.
that's good. Yeah, they're a great
Just
food source for the bees, especially the bumblebees. And our most of our fruit is done blooming. We've got a few later apples yet to bloom, and even my cherries have already bloomed. And I'm like, wow, I hope it doesn't get too cold and mess up the fruit now because they're already set in fruit. But we avoided the frost though today. Montana mostly got snow and a lot of freezing weather, and we didn't freeze. We got a little bit of snow that night, but not enough to make substantial difference. I don't think so. And I did use extract that I had made on my um, apple tree and the cherry tree right before the colder weather, because there is bacteria that can help the plants make it through a freeze and even keep the frost away. So really cool stuff to get that biology out there and working with your plants.
we did get a frost. We did get 30 degrees. I was surprised. It was 32 in the greenhouse and it was 30 at least on the ground. The day I go out to plant my strawberries, which I put in the ground, I hope they're going to survive. I was like, they have to go in. And I spent the day before getting the bed ready. And it was like, I could see like the little bits of frost like on the clover, but hopefully they survived. But what was I going to say about that? Oh, my broccolis, now they were under Agribon. They are thriving. They
Yeah,
are
they love this weather.
I was
They're like,
worried
bring
because
it on.
so spindly, and I thought, oh, those poor babies. The one night I put them out is the one night it got down to 30. But like I said, I had the Agribond over them, and they look really happy. But this is my question. The tomatoes in the greenhouse, the tomato starts are starting to bloom. Should we let
Don't
that
take the blooms off. No, you
I
don't
do
want
keep
to blooms.
them. I was surprised at how many. I thought there was one, and then when I looked around, I was like, "Oh, that plant has blooms, and that one has blooms."
Yeah, no, we want them building roots. And so when they start blooming, they're not really building roots. We really need to get them outside and in the ground, but you got to get the weather right. I don't plant tomatoes out until the 1st of June here in Island, and we're in the 49th parallel for those people that are not here in Montana, pretty far
Really?
north. So we don't plant till 1st of June for tomatoes, peppers, and any of that.
So I should have my
Seasonal
tomatoes in the
cucumbers,
house.
none of them guys, yeah. We don't have them outside until, they're not gonna grow until that soil's warmer anyhow, so you're just stressing the heck out of them. And so that goes back to our timing. I guess if I had tomatoes blooming right now, which I don't have, mine are pretty short and stocky, but if I had them get leggy or start blooming this early, then move your date of when you started them back. So let's say we started the end of March, then maybe plant them the 1st of April next year. To give you an idea, move it back so that you're trying to keep that age where they're not trying to flower, and you're building roots right up until the time they go into the garden. So Eileen had a good question about how to use the fish emulsions. And so Eileen, I blend the fish emulsion like 1 tablespoon to the 5-gallon bucket with the compost extract and any fish or kelp that you put out. Same way, about a tablespoon of all of those products together into the bucket. Now you can buy some products that are already pre-blended that have the fish and kelp or fish and seaweed together, which is the easier and easier way to do it. But then those all go in what I'm calling my compost extract. So it's going out weekly, but there's times where my plants don't need any nitrogen, so I don't add the fish. So we'll go into that a lot more as to what you see in the garden with your plants as this plant definitely needs more nitrogen, or this plant needed calcium a month ago, right? So the signals aren't always where that, oh, I can fix this tomorrow. It might be, I'm going to fix this in a month or 2 or down the road. But there's signals that we can learn and know what we should be doing. But that fish on a virgin ground and potting soil that I've purchased or whatever, I'd be putting it out weekly with this weekly treatment. So we're putting compost extracts, fish emulsions, kelp or seaweed, either one or both if you got it, humics if you got it, and put it all out, dilute it into 5-gallon buckets, and then put it into your watering cans or your sprayer or fogger, any way that you can get it out. It can go on the plants, it can go on the mulch, it could go on the soil. If you know me, you should not be seeing soil. You never see the soil. But it should be going on the mulch, it should go on the plants. You can also use it as your root dip, right? So when we transplant these tomatoes, they're going to get the best extracts I can come up with. But I'm going to dip that root ball in before I put it in the ground, right? So same way with my strawberries, I dipped them all. Everybody gets dipped, and then into the ground, and then the foliar treat once a week.
So I have a question on that root dip. If you have your tomato in a pot and there's soil all around it, do you take that soil off in order to drip the root? No. You just dip that
If it's in a plastic pot, I just take the plastic pot and put them in the bucket or a tray. Let them absorb it up from the bottom, and then your root ball doesn't fall apart. You really don't want the root ball falling apart. You want to keep that intact. You do not want it root bound though. We don't want the roots going around the container or coming out the bottom. If they are, those need tickled, but not on a cucumber or squash. That is like a death sentence for that whole plant family. Pumpkins, do not tickle the roots on those plants. The others, tomatoes, yes, get them tickled. Flowers, get them tickled, pull them apart, and then put them into your transplant. But the squash family, you're just like shooting yourself in the foot. You're just saying, yeah, okay, I just helped kill you. So that's why a lot of times, especially when we're doing market gardening and stuff, we would just plant the seeds, and we wouldn't even do the transplant thing with the cucumbers and the squashes. But here in Montana, we're normally such short summer growing days, so normally 90 days. The last 5 years, it's been way crazy and way longer than that. But most of the time, it's a 90-day growing season. And so that's why I have been starting them from seed and transplanting them, but those go through a lot more stress than the ones I just plant the seed. And a lot of times that seed, if I put a real good extract on it with microbes, will catch up with the plant that transplanted. So that's the whole squash family. That's the typical thing, guys. What was your other question? I mean, she's got one here. How can I blend fresh fish guts with water and apply to the garden? It's going to have to be really diluted. There's whole recipes to do that. You wouldn't just do it raw, and you could though. I mean, there's lots of gardeners that vary just the fish in the ground, and it's all good. But as far as putting it into liquid spray in plants, I think I'd want to refine it on down. And there's ways of doing it, and there's lots of ways that we can do it right. So we'll learn how to do that down the road. But I usually just buy my fish emulsion, and then when I'm going to get a real fish, I put it into a hot thermal compost or bury it in the ground. Is what I do. Or freeze them and use them for the composting episode coming up, right? Or you could salt them, put rock salt in a bucket with them and get them salted and keep them in a dark, cool place. So that then you're going to use them, put them into a compost. So they're a major resource, and lots of ways to use them. But I don't think I just chop it up and just use it without a lot of dilution and getting it done right. So sounds great. All right, I think we're going to go. Got any other questions?
In the chat. Maybe you already looked at
Yep, Eileen said thank you.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate that, Eileen. All right, Jackie, what else we got to do here? What do we use? We usually try to get people to join Patreon. I've been getting people to join, watching YouTube at least. I was on a talk with Central Montana yesterday in Natural Resource Council. And so a lot of the people jumped on my YouTube after having it. I was supposed to give a 20-minute talk. How do you guys think that went? I was supposed to give a 20-minute talk on Wednesday. How do you think that went?
I didn't see it.
Well, it was like 40 minutes.
Well,
that surprised me that I couldn't keep in a 20-minute window. What do you think, Jackie?
You go off on tangents.
That surprised you? You were like in the beginning, you're like, Jackie, we're just doing 20 minutes. You're going to time me, and you're going to warn me when it's 15 minutes, and you're going to set the alarm. And now it's like, I'm going to have a 45-minute presentation before we even get to questions. So I am not surprised that it was.
There's so much to learn. And they were super excited.
And you're just such an awesome teacher, and just you always
thank you.
And we all
I was getting it wrapped up at 20 minutes, and then they started into questions, and then they started going haywire. Yeah. Sue was showing me her notes.
My mom was
very impressive.
Yeah.
You guys are impressive students. Super impressive.
Yesterday we were supposed to be done at 6, and we were done at 20 to 6.
Yes. In a 5-hour workshop.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
fantastic.
Which also means that you like anticipated people's questions, so they weren't like having to ask all these questions. Like you knew what they were going to ask, and it's getting answered.
Yep,
I think the presentation as well. I think you do really.
I could teach composting in my sleep.
I was going to say I have promoted. I think I put out 36 episodes of my show since January. What there's like a grow live at the beginning and a grow live at the end of almost all of them.
Wow.
So I am surprised more of my listeners haven't come on. I think I've only aired 5 audio files, and it played on that Progressive Radio Network 2 weeks in a row because this Monday I completely walked out the door to town and forgot to send them the file. So I've now switched it. My alarm is going to go off in 7 minutes saying, send Pierre in your file. See if that works on Saturday morning.
And we're going to let us go here. Eileen would like to know what we're doing next week. I'm not quite sure. I do want to do a show and tell, so be thinking about what you could, and I don't know how the technology will go for that, but be thinking about what you might want to kind of show us for a minute or two out of your garden. And I'm sure, everybody's super busy. I'm going to be slammed gardening next couple weeks here. So we'll see. Something fun, though, I mean. So for now, though, we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, and join us on Patreon if you want the extra